Hello there, dear loving souls. Welcome back to this channel and to part 2 on the subject matter of the sun today. And part 2 is all about the application of the universal laws and some practical tips that we can discuss together. And as you know, I usually use the Holy Trinity of Love for this part. Not always, but it's very common for me to do so, which is all about thinking love, speaking love, and doing love. And so I'm going to go through a bunch of practical tips that will touch upon each one of those aspects, be that thinking, speaking, or doing. I'll jump straight into the list because I've got quite a few things here to talk about that just sort of came to me when I was personally thinking about the topic of the sun. And the first one that came up to mind was this little A5 flyer here. And it's all about, as you might be able to see, it's all about the daily affirmations, and I wrote these. I will link down the video that I made on the daily affirmations, which is a book that I self-published effectively myself. It's just a set of affirmations that I wrote. I want to say January 2017. That's what comes to mind. But anyway, so the reason is because there is one line that I say out loud, which is, thanks to the sun and many other life forces, I'm full of energy, I overflow with happiness and joy. Look, you're very welcome to have a look at the A5 flyer, which I do sell on Etsy and a few other places, which are all linked in my YouTube channel. As I said, I'll also show you the actual video to the book that I made, so you can read through that yourself and follow all the affirmations, or just even that one, which is, thanks to the sun and many other life forces, I'm full of energy, I overflow with happiness and joy. And as you can see in my book, I just felt like representing with what appears to be like a sun, but in the actual book you will see it's sort of the soul, or the loving soul, as that soul goes through each of the affirmations, or each of the sentences in the affirmations. It's like a different image, and I decided to be quite kiddie and childlike because, in my point of view, I hope to have inspired not just adults to repeat affirmations, but for the adults to actually educate their lovely kids on the power of affirmations. And so I was led to create these daily affirmations in like a cartoon-like or childlike format, in order to sort of assist kids out there, just to get them familiarized with the whole concept of affirmations through that kind of imagery. And so so that's that. Now the reason I wanted to also bring that up, because the first few words is thanks to the sun, and it's just showing that soulful appreciation to the sun, which you can obviously say in your mind or speak out loud, because ultimately it is the source of our life here on planet Earth. It does magic and wonder to our plants. You know, the fact that we can eat food is thanks to the sun. It's one of the elements that are absolutely necessary for the plants to grow, and I think it is vital for us humans to actually show that gratitude, say that thanks to the sun for being in our life. So moving on to the other thing, which is very directly in terms of thinking love or speaking love, you are very welcome to address the sun like you address any other humans or pets or subjects in your life or objects in your life. You can either do it through your prayer, if you believe in praying, if that's what you do. You can pray to the sun, say thanks to it for being in your life, but also if you need any kind of request, you can pray to the sun, ask for growth and development, illumination, some motivation, vitality, physical health. There's a bunch of things that the element of sun represents, or what it does to us, and the benefits that it brings into our life. And so I do think addressing the sun and praying to the sun is a meaningful and a fruitful activity that you can undertake in order to help yourself reap the rewards of that activity. The next thing that comes to my mind, came to my mind, is the actual day of the week, Sunday. Obviously, I appreciate that that's the reference in English language, and not in every language you have a reference to Sunday as the day of the sun. But I think there's something special about Sunday in particular, because some people have sort of like certain things that they do on Sundays, or certain habits that they have come up with or they undertake on Sunday, For some people it could be the first day of the week, for some it's the last day of the week. Some people go to church on Sundays, right? So that's what I mean. There's something special about Sunday, and you might want to consider, what is it that you already naturally do on Sunday? You know, does that bring you joy? Does it bring you love and happiness? You know, does that fulfill you? Does it motivate you? Or is there something that you could perhaps kick off every Sunday, something you could do in your life in order to make your life better and make it a habit of making sure that it falls on a Sunday? I have, this year anyway, I started this thing whereby, as I mentioned earlier in part 1, all about starting your own garden and doing some more gardening. I've even done video series on starting your own garden, which you're welcome to check out as well. But I made a calendar reminder in my phone, literally, just to say that every 3 weeks on each Sunday I check in on my seeds or plants. I do a little bit of gardening, just to really see if I need to replant any of the seeds that have come through and sprouted into seedlings, or do I just need to tidy up the area, you know, around my garden a little bit more. And I just drawn to do that on a Sunday for some reason, so that's just something I'm doing. And as I mentioned in part 1, that time outside and in the sun actually brought me a lot of joy. You know, a week or 2 weeks ago when I did it, and I wholeheartedly think it will only keep on bringing me joy and happiness and more health and vitality into my life the more time I spend outside. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention was that, well, speaking of plants and seeds, is how necessary the presence of sunlight is for our vegetation to grow, our trees to grow, which give us oxygen, right, and an ability to actually breathe and survive and live and eat food, right? So, you know, that living energy and the life force of the sun is just, you know, it's priceless. You can't put, it's just our basic need, literally it's our basic need. And I also like the growth and development part of it, right, because sunlight literally encourages growth and development, and I think that links up really quite well with the pattern and the cyclical nature, universal law, that there's constantly this variety of seasons that we go through, and everything is in continuous movement. And you know, plants and the vegetation, obviously, or trees, are a very good sign of what season we are in, right? Because they respond differently to their different levels of sunlight in our day to day, week to week, month to month life. Now, I'll just write that down. So the other one that I wanted to talk about was the concept of light and illumination in particular. I love that word, illumination, because I do believe that on like a spiritual, emotional, and perhaps more mental level as well, just stepping aside from the physical side of light, you know, being able to physically see light, but illumination in the sense that it can give us insight. It might illuminate certain darker sides of us, or darker sides of our behavior, or our thought patterns, or our emotional resilience might not be quite well. And the reason for it, that's what the sort of the word illumination brings with it, or that's what I feel that energy resonates with the word illumination. But its root source for me is the sun, because of the fact that we get light, or the concept of light from the sun. Now, the other thing that comes to mind when talking about seasons and patterns is obviously the timing of things, or time of the day, and the light, and that I just mentioned about, right? Of course, we get sunlit moment, what we call day, and obviously when there is no direct sunlight, it's very much the other side, it's the night, it's, you know, when the beautiful moon comes through instead. And I like it how back in the day, right, when we didn't have the watches or the clocks that we have now, people used to tell the time of the day based on where the sun was in the sky. I mean, I'm sure people still do that today, right? There are some very knowledgeable people in that field to be able to tell what time of the day it is based on where the sun is in the sky. And oh yeah, the next one, which is really important to discuss. I think it's the health, our health, and the fact that we need vitamin D in our life in order to function properly. It's a little boost, it's a good element for us, it's a good vitamin for us. And in particular, now that we changed seasons, you know, in the northern hemisphere we had gone into autumn, and the southern hemisphere we kicked off the spring season. I was reflecting on this myself the other day, and that over the winter period, of course, there's a lot of kind of bugs going around, illnesses, and more so when the seasons change, people are even more prone, I have noticed people are more prone to catching other bugs or illnesses or allergies, and as an example. And anyway, I was reflecting a little bit on that, and specifically about how during winter we don't get as much energy from the sun, and not much sunlight, and obviously it's cooler during the winter months. And as a result of that, I thought, you know, I don't spend as much time outside, not having as much vitamin D develop naturally, because we're usually covered up right when we're feeling cold. And so something I'm going to make a mental note for myself to do is to get, you know, vitamin D in alternative forms for the winter months, to make sure that actually maybe going, you know, into the winter months next year, it would be an interesting experiment actually in my life, whether or not I feel better throughout winter if I have, you know, if I supplement myself with a bit more vitamin D, if it's, you know, in other forms. I don't know, it'll be an experiment, but hey, comment down below if there's something that you do or you have done. What results have you had? Did it work? Did it not work? You know, getting vitamin D in a different format during winter months for you. Be very interesting to find out. But also that's something you may want to experiment with, you know, going into autumn if you're in the northern hemisphere, right? You know, just maybe get your ducks in a row, see if you do want to test it out for yourself as well, or your family, just to see if vitamin D might have an extra dose of vitamin D in an ulterior form or alternative form during the winter months, whether or not it has like a positive impact on your health during that season. Now, the last few I've got here on my list is actually to do with the waves of the sun, right? So our human eyes are designed to see a certain spectrum of the eye, but obviously scientists have come through with a method to be able to capture that there's actually more different kind of elements of our light that human eyes can't see, but it is out there, and it goes in a variety of waves. And so what I was thinking more about is these sun waves, electromagnetic waves, which sometimes is a result of the solar flares that happen from time to time, or other phenomena like solar eclipses as an example, due to an alignment of, you know, celestial objects in the sky. A variety of things like that, which are in continuous movement, right, have an impact on us as humans, as well as other matter on planet Earth. So that's something to be mindful of, and I think it ties in quite well, you know, with a few universal laws mentioned in part 1, how it is a source of life for planet Earth, but it's constantly moving itself. It's like a, it does different things, right? It's like a living beast kind of thing. It's alive, you know, the sun is alive, and as a result of that, yes, it does have solar flares and other phenomena happen to it, which directly have an impact on planet Earth. I'm thinking about the electromagnetic waves and how those from time to time have a direct impact on our technology, our communication, our signals, you know, telecommunications networks, as well as I've heard about like airplanes right in the sky being impacted because they might not be able to actually capture the appropriate signals, or their technology might not be working as well as a result of electromagnetic storms occurring. So that's an interesting one. Now the next one I wanted to move on, and some of you this might resonate, but the astrological meaning of the sun. So the sun in your natal birth chart will represent which star sign or the zodiac sign you are. So, you know, I was born in November, so I'm a Scorpio. That's my sun, because at the time in the location of where I was born, the sun was in the zodiac of Scorpio at the time. That's pretty much how it works. And then wherever you are, this is the one that people most commonly know is what their zodiac is. It's because of the sun being in a particular position during the time of their birth and the time of their place and time of their birth. So if you're not into astrology, this might be a little tip, a practical tip. You might want to get out and educate yourself a little bit more as to your sun sign, perhaps your natal birth chart, because there's a lot of other signs. There's a variety of things in your, you know, when at the time and place when you were born. There's a lot more celestial objects at play here, not just the sun, that has an impact and influence on who you are as a person, what your behaviors are like, gifts, talents, challenges, and whatnot. So you might be inspired to actually start educating yourself a little bit more about that. I think it's exciting and fun. There's a lot of tools online. There's a lot of YouTube videos about it. So go have fun, enjoy it. Right, the next one is the chakra of solar plexus. That's something I was thinking about. I did make a video on Sleeptime Healing of Chakras. I will link that down below as well for you if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that subject, which is chakras, but specifically healing them or activating them during your sleep time. But one of the chakras is the solar plexus, which is just above sort of your upper abdomen area, and it is representative of things like your self-identity, your self-worth, your own confidence, your own personal power, that, you know, I am energy, you know, who are you, I am XYZ, which is just as an important aspect of our lives, right? Is who we are as an individual, our confidence, our ability, our kind of perception of ourselves, our self-esteem, all that good jazz. So this might be an inspiration for you to learn a little bit more about chakras as a whole, or perhaps to focus in on your solar plexus or any kind of aspect of your life that the solar plexus represents. And the last thing I wanted to mention is, you know, from a duality point of view, day, night, black, white, whatever, you know, that sort of side, there are always, I think a person can always perceive things as good or bad, or positive or negative, and that perception, as it is what it is. There's no right or wrong, and there's no inherently right or wrong or good or bad. It's all just sort of how you, your perspective, you know, how you perceive things. But one of the things about the sun is that you can experience too much sun, right? So you might have to be mindful of that. So physically speaking, you know, use the sunblock on all your body and your face, obviously to protect your skin, that even though we do need vitamin D to be developed naturally for health reasons, you can also have too much sun. So make sure you have that sunblock as well to protect yourself, especially during the hotter times of the season. To be mindful of that. And anything else about the sun I'm just going to mention? No, I think I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that comes to me intuitively. Nothing at this point in time. Let's just jump into part 3, my dear loving souls, and we'll get some messages from the spirit world on the subject of the sun. I'm sure more will come through. Click on the link down below, and I will see you shortly in part 3.